River reeds whisper as bright-cloaked men step onto the bank. My courtyard gathers their colors like spilled dye. Compliments arrive first, expensive and precise, touching every bruise a man like me hides. They unwrap gifts on my table. The room tilts toward wanting. I keep my voice measured and my hands still. They say my name as if it belongs to them. Metal catches the light, fabric slides like water. Servants drift listening. The letter seal breaks with a soft pop, fear inked in formal script. Curse for us. Power asks for shortcuts when it's afraid. I nod like a professional and buy the night to think. Night presses in. The house cools. I rehearse both answers, each with its own future. The floor smells of dust and old cedar. When sleep finally takes me, it is taken back by a voice that does not argue. It simply closes one door. Do not go. Do not curse. They are blessed. Morning tastes like iron. Envoys study my face for cracks they can widen. I give them the no as cleanly as it was given to me. Their jaws set. We eat in the politeness that comes after a failed sale. Sand sticks to their sandals as they leave a whisper of insult. The table looks naked where the gifts were. Emptiness has its own shine. I try to busy my hands, polish the staff head, mend a strap, but the mind wanders to cities I won't see, rooms I won't command. Pride calls it caution. Conscience calls it peace. I pretend not to hear either. 3 days stretch. A fly taps the window reed like a metronome. I imagine the road away from this town, the hills ahead, a king learning to sleep again. I also imagine my name dimming in certain circles. It shouldn't matter. It does. I ask the sky for distraction and get silence. Hooves again. Color again. The second delegation brings weight. Heavier purses, heavier words. Honor beyond measure. Their smiles are carpenters building stairs under my feet. I repeat the boundary only what the Lord gives me to speak. They grin as if a boundary is a puzzle to solve with more gold. Night takes me in unkind. I ask again. It feels like asking the river to run uphill. Permission arrives like a lamp with a narrow beam. Go, but speak only what I say. Freedom on a leash. I want to cheer and cannot. I want to sleep and cannot. Before dawn, leather creaks and the donkey huffs in the dark. My hands know the saddle's knots, better than my heart knows its own. Servants load bags. The staff feels heavier than wood. I touch the seal ring, then let my hand fall. The road waits for the truth about me. We move out with the envoy's banners folding in the wind. The town shrinks behind us. My mind writes outcomes faster than my feet can travel. The donkey's ears twitch as if listening to someone I can't hear. Pride calls her stubborn. A quieter voice suggests she's careful. I choose pride, for now. Vineyard walls squeeze daylight into ribbons. My donkey halts, ears pricked to something I can't hear. I click my tongue, then press my heel. She steps into soft soil away from the stone path. Envoys bark corrections behind me. Pride, thin and sharp, slides under my ribs like a hidden blade. I yank the rein. She stumbles back onto the road. The passage narrows until air thins. She trembles, eyes white at the edges. A sudden lurch left, and my foot kisses stone skin, tearing pain, flooding hot. I strike her flank, the staff, a quick answer to a question I refuse to ask. Laughter ricochets down the walls, servants hiding smiles, nobles not bothering to hide at all. The donkey folds to her knees, then sinks. Dust puffs up and clings to my tongue. I hit again. Anger is my mask against humiliation. The mask fits too well. Her head turns. Her mouth opens with a sentence shaped like mercy and rebuke. What have I done to you? The world jolts. I answer like a fool, inventory of bruises, itinerary of kings, an agenda louder than love. The envoys stop breathing. The road becomes a listening room. Light gathers like a blade pulled slow from its sheath. In the throat of the path stands a messenger sword, drawn calm as a held note. My chest empties. All my explanations skid and fall. The donkey had seen him each time. I had seen only my plan. Knees hit dust. My palms no grit. I have sinned. I say words that taste like honesty and iron. I offer to turn back the first offer of the day that isn't about money. The messenger's gaze doesn't accuse. It sets the bone. Go, but only speak what I give. I lower my head until the field sounds grow large flies, a distant flock, my own breath. The staff in my hand feels wrong as a weapon. It feels right as a crutch. I stroke the donkey's neck. She exhales long and forgiving. I would like to learn that sound. The men rearrange their faces. Politics resumes its march, pretending nothing happened. We stand joints complaining. The walls, suddenly innocent, return to being walls. I step carefully, testing the foot that smarted against stone, discovering it still belongs to me. Back on open road, wind combs the grass into one direction. I let the donkey find the center line. A hawk writes circles above us, then leaves the page. I think of modern warnings, dashboard lights, ignored messages, junior voices, and the cost of silencing them. By noon, the heat leans hard. We pass a shrine, smoke thin as thread. I touch the seal ring out of habit and feel nothing helpful there. The earlier leash, only the word I give, doesn't chafe. It steadies. Far ahead, a king expects curses. I keep practicing the shape of blessing. Moab's gate breathes out cool air and the smell of animals. Balak arrives in a flash of crimson attendants, forming a moving wall. His smile is polished, his eyes not. You took too long. I touch ground, my foot steady enough. The donkey's ears tilt, absorbing impatience better than I can. We walk inside while trumpets edit the story arrival, packaged as triumph. Courtyard murals show enemies taught their place. I feel painted eyes follow us. Balak's glance weighs me like grain. He wants certainty he can invoice. I offer a nod that says I know what he wants. At the feast, bronze dishes reflect faces made bold by firelight. Balak talks in totals armies, borders risks. Fear prefers spreadsheets. He asks what I'll need to perform. Nothing you can price, I say, and let the sentence hang like a curtain he chooses not to pull back. I deliver my line without lace. I will speak only what the Lord gives me. The table stiffens. A scribe coughs into his sleeve. Balak's knuckles pale, then recover their color. He raises a cup as if toasting a problem that will behave if fed enough wine and ceremony. Plans stroll in tomorrow, a vantage point. See enough of the camp to aim precisely. Different angle, different outcome, Balak says. I hear a producer suggesting alternate cuts. We are both professionals. Only one of us believes angles make reality, not the other way around. Night finds me on a terrace overlooking dark fields. Wind rolls warm off the plain. The tents below catch starlight like fish scales. My hand finds the staff grain under palms steady as a metronome. I remember the road and the sword I almost met without seeing. A young officer eager to matter recites altar counts and goat logistics. His breath smells of dates and nerves. I thank him and say the quiet part out loud. Ritual is choreography, not cause. He blinks, nods anyway, and writes down my indifference as consent. Bureaucracy needs minutes. In my room, ceiling stars cluster, in patterns foreign to my village. I reach up and feel paint cool against my fingertips. Power likes to be near the constellations. I like the floor solid, forgiving there when you fall. I practice saying nothing until it isn't empty. A runner arrives with a sealed note schedule escorts sunrise. The wax bears Balak's crest, pressed hard enough to think force can make meaning. I set it beside my staff. Contracts pile up in a life like mine. The rare ones that save you are the ones you keep. Before sleep, I speak the clause again, like a vow, only what I'm given. The sentence fits better than gold. Outside, a watch horn answers another, thinning the dark. Somewhere, a king rehearses persuasion. Somewhere, a people breathe promises. I turn on my side and let obedience be a pillow. Dawn edges the sky with diluted copper. Servants move like quiet punctuation. I cinch my belt, the leather familiar and stubborn. The donkey nudges my arm, a small reminder that seeing can start low to the ground. Balak waits in red. The hill waits in stone. My mouth waits for a word. Torches drip light as we crest the ridge. The high place holds the night's last chill. Blackened stones ring a flat space scarred by old fires. Below the plain sleeps under a gray veil. Balak's cloak arrives like sunrise dyed wrong. Here, he says, as if geography could bully heaven. Workers stack wood with the briskness of the well-paid. Priests count animals, argue quietly over sequence. I request altars. Their faces brighten ritual is a language they speak without thinking. Smoke climbs in first thin lines, then sheets. The rocks sweat heat. Fat pops like small applause and is gone. A captain touches my elbow, voice professional. Morale is the soft target, he says. Make them doubt. I look down at his hand until he remembers it and removes it. I'm not a contractor, I say. I'm a courier. He frowns, trying to price a word that won't be sold. I step past the heat to a jut of stone and let wind clean the smell of burning from my hair. The wide silence arrives, room enough for a sentence that isn't mine to begin. In me, fear loosens its grip on my ribs. The leash of obedience feels like a railing, not a chain. The circle hushes when I return. Even birds respect certain moments. I see the plain as a table set for a guest who hasn't yet knocked. I open my mouth and find my own voice carrying something larger, blessing with a spine, not a sigh. It lands where curses were expected to bloom. Balak's face hardens, then smooths into diplomacy's mask. A scribe pauses mid-scratch ink, dotting the papyrus like a held breath. The king's jaw clicks once. Around us, men adjust their sandals as if the problem were gravel. I wait for shouting. It doesn't arrive. Strategy does. Another place, Balak says, measuring each word. See them from there. He points toward a shoulder of mountain where the plain angles differently. Hope in fearful men loves geometry. They think if they change the frame, the picture will owe them money. I nod because arguing with fear is a long hobby. Embers talk softly to themselves. I rub the donkey's neck, coarse hair, under palm. She leans into the scratch, forgiving by my nature. My staff remembers being a crutch. I remember being wrong. The air smells of ash and goat and the underside of stone. The sky brightens undecided. A junior priest jogs up anxious, suggesting new choreography, different sacrifices, a purer wind, perhaps salt. You can't edit what God has blessed, I say. He writes this down like an instruction anyway, relieved to carry anything with verbs in it. We all love checklists when mystery is the answer. We move out. Standards tilt in the breeze. The path threads the ridge like a seam. Below, tents begin to glint as the sun thinks about becoming day. I keep my mouth closed as if guarding a small flame. The next hill waits with its own polite confidence. Balak strides ahead, red a wound against the rock. Advisors orbit him at careful distances, a constellation that has learned his weather. I follow at a human pace. A hawk rolls over the plain in one neat gesture and is gone. I practice the quiet that let blessing choose me. Pisgah rises in switchbacks, stone sweating the night's last cold. Balak's red cloak jerks like a flag in hard wind. We crest a field of watchers, Zophim, its grass combed by the sky. The plain tilts tents scattered like shells. Someone whispers, "This angle," as if geometry could corner God. Altars bloom again, uncut rock, stacked wood, careful lines of salt. The junior priest speaks steps like a spell, his voice hitching on certain words. He wants the future to respect procedure. Smoke noses upward and dissolves uninterested in our choreography. I ask for space. No one follows. I stand where the grass scribbles circles and the wind reads them aloud. I do nothing clever. The quiet fills crowdless and complete. When the wait arrives, it is simple and exact, as if a plumb line dropped through my chest and clicked on bedrock. I return without hurry. Faces turn, birds reel once and vanish. My mouth opens and the words choose substance over spectacle. The one who speaks does not revise to fit poles. What he blesses doesn't boomerang as curse. The sentence lands with a weight that refuses our pricing models. Even the smoke seems to listen. Balak rocks back, recovers, smooths the edges of his voice. A scribe pauses, mid-stroke ink gathering like a storm cloud at the tip of the reed. A courtier blames the wind. People love reasons that aren't themselves. The captain studies me as if I've swallowed leverage. We step aside. The donkey presses her forehead to my wrist and exhales. Ordinary kindness recalibrates breath. I think of modern rooms where leaders say, change the KPI when the truth won't move. You can dim the dashboard and still be going too fast. The junior priest hustles over, proposing variations, other animals, sharper sequence, more impressive smoke. I tell him the quiet part, there is no sorcery against a decision already signed. He writes it down the way a tired clerk files thunder, somewhere safe drawer labeled mystery. Wind leans hard enough to make men squint. The tents below glitter like stubborn stars. I feel the leash again, the line that keeps a man inside honesty. It doesn't bite, it bears. I rest my palm on the staff and let that steadiness spread to bones. Balak's mask returns lacquered calm over heat. Another place, he says. Peor. He points as if pointing could instruct mountains. Advisors orbit him at respectful distance, reading forecast in his jaw. I nod. Obedience doesn't argue with weather. It reads the sky and walks. The procession reforms standards, lift hooves, clack sandals, whisper. The ridge path narrows a seam, stitching rock to sky. I walk behind the king and in front of my fear. Between them is a small room called faith. I keep it tidy with quiet. We leave Pisgah to its own wind and witness. The plane tilts back toward ordinary. I think of how often we climb to change truth that won't change. Maybe the climb is the change. Ahead, Peor waits like a sealed envelope. I save my breath for the letter inside. Peor rises like a balcony stapled to sky. Heat arrives early, bright enough to make men squint at their own plans. Below tents sketch constellations on earth. Balak's red cloak flashes up the path, already impatient. Only a portion, he says, as if less view equals less promise. Priests hurry, relieved, to move. Altars multiply, uncut stone wood stacked by the practiced hands, salt pinched in careful lines. The choreography sings confidence it hasn't earned. Smoke ladders upward and then decides against ladders. A captain leans in, voice clinical menace. Use menace. I watch the smoke learn to disappear. I let the request pass like wind. I step to the edge where the plain opens like a palm. The wind is grass and water and animal. Waiting stretches time without wasting it. The present sits near as if we share a bench. When the wait arrives, it is simple, like a bell you don't unhear. Faces pivot when I return. Even the flies circle wider as if they know. I open my mouth and the sentence refuses theater. It walks straight to beauty, the tents below declared lovely, the people named secure. I hear myself say that God's speech doesn't stumble and no spell can edit his line. Balak's shoulders drop a fraction, then square hard. A courtier studies his sandals, a safe horizon. The scribe writes bless with careful strokes as if ink can be respectful. The junior priest searches for a lever in the air and finds only air. Silence settles stern and useful. I touch the donkey's neck. She answers with a lean. The staff remembers being a crutch. In modern rooms, this is where someone says, kill the story, but truth doesn't die politely. It refuses embargoes. It keeps breathing when spin runs out of air. Balak exhales through his nose, a small hot sound. Enough, he says, voice thin from holding in louder things. Go home, your reward. The sentence limps. Money loves certainty. I cannot sell what isn't mine. I say there are more words, and I am not free to hoard them. We step back from the altars. Embers sketch small red maps that mean nothing. The junior priest asks whether a different ridge might cooperate. You can't coerce what God has already decided, I say. He writes it down anyway because minutes must be taken even when meaning has left the room. Peor keeps its view unmoved by us. The plane keeps breathing. Somewhere far below, children run between ropes and laugh. I hold the leash of obedience and feel it hold me back from cliffs I used to love. The wind is hot on my face, the certainty cool at my spine. We begin to descend. Balak's cloak snaps like an angry flag. Advisors fall in orbiting the gravity of disappointment. I walk at a pace a human can keep, staff tapping a steady metronome. The tents grow softer with distance. My mouth tastes like truth I didn't invent and still have to carry. At the trail's turn, I glance back. Peor stands elegant and indifferent. The altars shrink to dots, smoke already a rumor. What waits next is not a trick, but a testimony. If I've learned to bless when paid to curse, what else might I learn to do when the pay stops? Royal canvas snaps in the heat, red and white, against a sky that refuses clouds. Spearheads catch sun like teeth. Balak holds still the way a storm door holds, under strain. Courtiers arrange themselves as if proximity could fix the forecast. I taste ash and something metallic like the edge of a decision. I say there are more words. The staff tip draws a line in dust, my hand remembering the road and the sword I almost met. The donkey's nose presses my sleeve. Ordinary kindness in the middle of protocol. A guard's laugh dies half-born. Even impatience knows when to listen. The horizon wavers a river made of heat. The sentence arrives, the kind that walks past headlines into history. I speak of a ruler rising like a bright mark, in night of a scepter that steadies more than it strikes. Power shifts, mountains shrink, the air changes temperature. Ink begins to run the record read nib, scratching the papyrus with little breaths between words. Advisors exchange glances like trading cards, metaphor time frame loophole. Balak's jaw ticks, then smooths into a practiced mask. He wanted switches, he's getting a star chart. I keep my eyes on the line where ground meets sky. I add edges, the fall of this tribe, the thinning of that one. Metal that conquers until it remembers rust. Alliances that promise and then evaporate. Names pass my mouth like stones laid in a river. None of them are the river. The captain snorts, unimpressed by anything that doesn't happen by payday. I don't argue wages with weather. In modern terms, this is where someone says change the narrative and truth turns off its phone. I'm offering forecasts, not favors. The wind shivers a banner. For a blink, it points nowhere and everywhere at once. I breathe like a man using a borrowed cup. The junior priest edges near, eyes big. He wants to believe the sentence about a light rising. He also wants to keep his job. He writes anyway because minutes must be taken even when meaning might set careers on fire. We are all loyal to something. The trick is choosing it on purpose. Balak gestures dismissal, palm slicing air. The motion shakes a bracelet. Wealth is heavy when it can't purchase the outcome. My pride doesn't bruise this time. The donkey steps forward as if she knows the cue. I'm grateful for a creature that doesn't understand PR. We pass the edge of the camp, black kettles, cooling armor, stacked like sleeping beetles, boys, racing between guy ropes. A hawk wheels overhead, a punctuation mark in the blank page of noon. My staff taps a steady beat, bone wood ground. Rhythm is a kind of prayer. At the last turn, I look back. Red banners crawl smaller, smoke trails go thin. The horizon wears the day like a crown that doesn't glitter. I think of living small under a big promise of borrowing brightness without claiming it. The question that stays is simple: will I keep the leash when no one's watching? The royal camp diminishes to dots of red cloth and glints of spear. Heat climbs my spine like a ladder. The donkey's ear flicks at flies, a small metronome keeping me honest. I wait for the surge of victory that stories promise. What comes is a clean, light silence. A trader's cart rattles past linens stacked like clouds. "He stiffed you?" he asks, already pricing my answer. I say, "Peace is cheaper to carry than gold." He grimaces, no rumor worth packing. Dust swallows his wheels. The road forgets him 5 steps later. My shoulders drop an inch. At a spring reeds, draw green lines against the afternoon. Water tastes of stone and cold. I wash my sore foot and watch the ripples edit my reflection, then give it back. The donkey drinks, eyes half closed. A dragonfly stitches sunlight to the surface and leaves. A guard wanders up, helmet tucked under his arm. "My sister camps with the Hebrews," he says. Not a question, not a threat, just a fact that rearranges his face. "Then bless them again," he adds, almost embarrassed by hope. I nod. Some permissions are quiet and contagious. We sit until talk runs out. The guard goes. Silence returns like a skilled physician. I rehearse the leash clause, only what I am given soft enough to hear its bones. In modern rooms, it would be a boundary email. Out here, it's a spine upright without audience. Servants squabble over figs and portions the ancient art of ration math. I send them to sleep and take the blame for unequal pieces. The donkey leans into my shoulder, warm and uncomplicated. Forgiveness, it turns out, weighs nothing and holds like rope. Dusk paints the sky in bruised peaches and iron. I remember Balak's red, the scribe's hesitating hand, the priest's need for new steps. We all love choreography when mystery is the answer. The staff across my knees feels like a question I'm finally willing to keep asking. A village boy sidles close toes, gripping dust. "Do words make things happen?" he whispers. "They make you align with what already wants to happen," I tell him. He squints at the cliff behind us. "Like a rail," I smile. Some theologies arrive with small, dirty feet. Stars cut holes in the dark. I notch the staff with a knife point, 1 mark for today's obedience. No one sees it. That's the point. The mark is for the part of me that wakes forgetful. The wood takes it, adding a line to a story without applause. Wind braids the reeds. The spring keeps its mirror. I kneel, water cool against ankles, and ask the kind of prayer that fits inside a breath. Keep my mouth yours when applause wanders off. The donkey sighs, the sound of a tent settling. I lie back and let the quiet hold. Stalls lean toward the road like eavesdroppers. Oil pops on griddles. Figs glisten. Goats complain. The donkey threads crowds as if she knows every vendor. Faces tilt with the same question, curse or bless. I taste sesame and dust and answer none of them with slogans. The scroll seller's fingers are tattooed with ink. "Give me the scandal," he grins, angling a blank papyrus like a net. Half-truth, double sales. I tell him truth doesn't have well. He laughs, counting futures I refuse to buy. The donkey sniffs his basket and gets away with it. A contractor squares his shoulders like a door frame. "Curse my rival's bid," he says, pouch ready. I close his fingers over the coins and push them back. "Build clean, let the work speak." He flushes as if honesty were an insult. Some men want shortcuts more than outcomes. A woman presses hot bread into my hands. My cousin's among the tents. She says, eyes shining with sleep regained. No speeches pass between us. Her thanks feels like water poured on a too-hot thought. I eat, ashamed how long I mistook noise for power. The scribe wants allegory instead of account. Make the donkey a metaphor. Audiences hate miracles, they love meaning. I remember the blade in the narrow path and the voice that held my life. Meaning without miracle cheats both, I say. He looks hurt the way salesmen look at refunds. We set camp by water the color of hammered tin. Boats slide past like quiet letters. Servants dispute the better road. Both draw maps with sticks, winning with volume. I let their certainty spend itself. The donkey drinks and rests her chin on the bank, as if listening to the current. A boy asks if God sounds like thunder. I tell him to think of wind turning before the trees notice. So you prepare, he says. Exactly. We practice listening together, counted breaths between breezes, like reading the page for spaces as well as ink. At dusk, the messenger arrives with coins that try to be polite. Some nobles wish clarifications, he says, pressing the purse like a bandage over truth. I tip it back. I don't rent my mouth by the hour. He retreats as if light stung. I cut a small notch in my staff private ledger against my own forgetfulness. Sparks lift, reconsider the dark, and disappear. The mark is for the morning when fatigue will argue against vows. Wood remembers what flesh forgets. River smell, coal smoke, a heron folding into itself at the far bank. I lie back and let the quiet write me down. Somewhere a king's anger cools into paperwork. Somewhere a people sleep. I hold the leash like a lifeline and ask for tomorrow's yes. Peor appears by layers, smoke ribbon rooftops, the well where gossip cools. My courtyard smells like clay and last week's rain. The dog that never liked me pretends I'm furniture. I hang the staff on its old hook. The wall looks ordinary and changed like a face after a decision. Neighbors inventory my absence, weddings, water disputes. A cousin who left with a caravan and romance. Someone calls my journey a wash. I let it pass. Not every ledger uses ink. The donkey finds her corner of shade and claims it like a birthright. Peace, it seems, prefers quiet furniture. Night lays a soft hand on the town. Old appetites prowl, wanting applause. Quick wages, a polished version of me. I remember the road narrowing the sword. I almost met the sentence that leased my mouth. I breathe until my heartbeat clicks into place behind the simpler word, yes. A merchant arrives with 2 contracts and a grin. Bless this bid, sour that one. He expects fireworks. I pour water and offer boundaries. He leaves disappointed in my lack of spectacle. I'm learning to live with other people's disappointment. It passes faster than regret. A woman with tired eyes wants a word for her sick child. I don't reach for tricks. I sit with her long enough for courage to remember her name. Blessing isn't confetti. It's a hand that steadies. She leaves carrying a quieter breath than she came with. The apprentice candidate knocks like thunder, then blushes. All elbows, all curiosity. I teach him to wait without fidgeting, to listen past his own cleverness, to let tools be rails, not weapons. Who taught you humility, he asks. A donkey, I say. He laughs, then realizes I mean it. Letters, one generous, one sharp, one lucrative. Retell it, make the donkey a metaphor, soften the miracle. In modern terms, monetize the conscience. I file them under a stone. Weather edits better than I do. The boy asks why. Because some stories get worse when you make them safer. Dawn hangs silver thread over the river. Fishermen speak in the grammar of knots. I kneel where the bank surrenders to water. My reflection wobbles, then returns steadier than I deserve. The leash question taps my ribs. Will you keep it when applause migrates elsewhere? I carve a notch in the staff, today's yes, tiny and stubborn. The wood accepts it as if it was waiting. I show the boy. He touches the mark like it's a map. One each day, he asks. As many as we need, I say. A heron lifts from the reeds and writes itself across the morning. The town wakes, doors, kettles, names. I turn back with the small prayer shaped to fit inside breath. The road begins at the gate the way it always has. Long, ordinary, exactly enough.